It's an elitism, a disdain for those. That's why they keep saying, listen, college-educated women voted for Kamala.
I mean, sort of.
That's the facts. And I'm like, well, maybe college doesn't educate you.
That's true. Sort of, but it's not just, it is elitism, but there's also like, there's people that don't feel any connection to like the United States.
They hate this country.
People that tend to be in like, that tend to live in cities.
Yeah.
Like you can live in London, or you could live in Paris, or you could live in New York, or you could live in LA, or you could live in, you know, any number of cities in the West, and it mostly feels the same. You'll get most of the same stuff. Like you'll get a little bit different food maybe, but otherwise it's the same thing. But if you live in the woods or in like outside of the major cities, it's real different. Like if you live in the desert, if you live outside of Phoenix in the desert, it's totally different to living in New England. Sure. Outside of the city. So like that kind of stuff makes a difference. And people that are cosmopolitan like that, they're just like, whatever, it's all the same to me. I live in a city, and I live in the city in the US or London or whatever, and it's like it's all the same. They don't have any connection to where they're from.
I'm doing some fact checking on Rogan's beliefs on dragons. Joe Rogan's dragon beliefs. This is from an episode of his podcast with Adrian Lappalucci, if you want to look into it. According to the snippets, he talked about ancient cultures like the Chinese, Japanese, ancient European cultures. They suggested dragons might have been real flying lizards or like flying crocodiles. He said he doesn't necessarily, he's not sold on the fire-breathing aspect, but is convinced that there were large reptilian creatures that were referred to as dragons. Now, I'll go a step further and suggest it is possible that they had like flammable saliva, and maybe it was like they clicked something in the back of their throat and could like make a spark.
This dragon believer.
Just wait till Joey Behar comes after you.
Like,
now you have this guy, Tim. Pull.
Like, maybe
Joe
they
Rogan
didn't
about
breathe.
saliva. That's
Joe
Rogan spitballing as you know, I bet there probably were stuff like this, and then to turn it into he believed that dragons.
He suggested that these dragons might have been real. Might have been.
Kimono dragons are real. Like
there's literal dragon.
There are
dragon.
There are
Not
giant
flying,
lizards that are bad.
Dude,
you know,
birds are like flying lizards. I mean, at some point we had dinosaurs.
So,
they were
don't prove Joey right.
Mika and Joe ended up making up with Donald Trump. Do you think there's any potential for The View to also make up with Donald
100%. Trump doesn't.
Whoopi's a comedian. I could totally see her going on the show, and like, but I don't know. At this point, it's too far gone.
It's
a real betrayal of sort of the comedian's understanding of things. Like she comes from that world. We forget because she's been on the show so long.
Joe's point is actually really, really simple. You go back 2,000 years or whatever, and you've got a village of 100 people. And, you know, let's just say it's, I don't know, Rome. And what's an old Latin name? I don't know, like Lucius or something. Is that Latin?
Yeah, Lucius.
There you go. And he's like, in Latin, I'm going to go travel to the next town over to see if they've got metal of some sort. And as he's walking, he's like, boop, boop, boop. And he sees a big lizard. And it's like it's huge. It's like, you know, probably a meter. And then he goes back and he's like, I swear it was as big as this. You know, it was massive. And then some guy was like, did you hear what Lucia said? There was a lizard. It was like 6 feet tall.
Oh, yeah.
And then some guy's like, I hear there's a 6 foot tall lizard walking around. And then someone's like, yeah. And it was spitting and screaming, spitting. Wow, yeah. Spitting fire, they say. And he didn't mean literal fire. But my point is, you know, when you hear these stories about monsters, like the story of this, like where does Cyclops come from? They found an elephant skull. And the nose socket or whatever looks like
one.
Yeah, and they thought it was a Cyclops head. And so then they draw pictures.
Yeah.
So you go back far enough and someone's going to be like, I fought a giant beast. It was 7 feet tall, or they wouldn't say feet or whatever. And it was like a black bear, you know? And
the
then
Minotaur was like actually just a bull.
Yeah, it was a bull that stood up and like, you know, trampled somebody.
Did you see Richard?
A bull in a maze.
Did you see the conversation between Richard Dawkins and Jordan Peterson? He's like, do you actually believe in dragons or not? You talk about dragons as if they're biological creatures. Do you believe in dragons?
What did Jordan Peterson say?
Well, he went to the mythological. He was like, take, you know, the most terrifying things you can think of, you know? It's like, well, fire and wings and teeth that can soar through the heavens, you know, and destroy you. You've had your own dragons in your life, you know? To Richard, but he went to the mythological. They were talking cross purposes.
And Jordan Peterson did say that you're a chimpanzee full of snakes.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was glandular fire making.
I do not believe that.
I don't think there would be any fossil records of the glands, so I don't know. All that stuff would decompose. Maybe stuff literally could spit flammable fluid.
More disturbingly is like they're conflating the idea, and they're so threatened by. They're presenting it as if it's this threat that people have conversations, and talk loosely about things because and the fact that they're like, we have to be the controlled, center of what is true and not true. We are the ones who tell you and the authority. This appeal in this clip that you could see, this sort of elitism to, they're so threatened by the popularity of conversation.
I don't want to hear anyone on The View telling me that they're going to judge Joe Rogan because he believes in dragons, because I bet at least one of them believes in astrology.
Or that men can get pregnant.
There you go.
But wouldn't it be funny if just like a couple thousand years ago, there's some like Chinese dude and he was like walking between towns and then there's like, I don't know where the Komodo dragons are native to, but let's just say there's like a big lizard somewhere.
Yeah.
And it runs out of the bush after having just tried to eat a piece of flaming refuse because a lightning strike happened. And so it runs up and just barfs and this ball of fire
here
falls
we go.
out.
There are the bombardier beetle is a real animal that spits flammable liquid called hydroquinones.
It's not flammable.
This says
Boiling. It's not
it's a
flammable.
toxic boiling substance.
And it doesn't spit.
Well, there you go. The chemicals mix in the air and undergo the exothermic heat-releasing chemical reaction.
I was literally just looking at bombardier beetles
boiling
like 2 days
hot,
ago.
yeah, irritating boiling hot fluid. So if there was a flying lizard that spit this hydroquinones,
What's that shrimp that can snap so hard it creates a plasma blast?
Yeah, what is it?
What is it? Pistol shrimp. Yeah, it snaps its little claw so fast it creates a vacuum, which creates a burst of light.
It's like Street Fighter shrimp.
Yeah, it's like a Hadouken. It's a plasma.
Hadouken!
Yeah, that's right. Those
You
shrimp,
sent us down a rabbit hole.
Dangerous shrimp. But this is the nature of the media. They don't like Joe Rogan, and they sit here telling how we tell the truth. Meanwhile, they just spit lies all day to the point where they have to have legal disclaimers. When she's like, we have a legal notice here, the human legal notice, I'm like, that's not a good thing to have to have.
Did you see their
That's
second
indicative
one?
of how many lies you have.
they just released another one.
She did another one.
Yeah, today.
Disclaimer? Should you
Yeah,
do a disclaimer?
another one.
I don't
Sonny.
think that it was about.
Oh, it was Hegseth.
Oh, Fox News. They're just like, hey, you'll be hearing from our lawyers, Sonny.
Doesn't
Yeah,
seem
let's
to
take
be
it from
working, whatever they keep doing, because judging by the way the cultural tides have turned.
I think
Well,
now
I
that
mean,
they
it's
got
not
Matt
working.
Gaetz, they're going to go for Pete Hegseth next, by the way.
They're
That's where
only
the-
interested in getting
dragging
on.
on.
They're after the awfuls. They're after the awful viewership, just affluent white ladies that are.
It's siloing itself off more and more and more the more they double down on it. So just it doesn't seem to be.
But I don't think that it matters. I don't think that, like, obviously they don't want to get sued. But beyond like legal ramifications, they don't have to say anything that's true.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.